Imagine a world where the Roman Empire never collapsed. No Dark Ages, no barbarian kingdoms, no medieval knights jousting in muddy fields. Instead, marble roads, aqueducts still flowing, senators still arguing loudly in togas, and, quite possibly, modern Romans complaining about traffic on the Via Appia Express. Sounds wild? Well, buckle up, or rather, tighten your toga belt, because today on What If, we're exploring a timeline where Rome didn't fall, and history just kept marching to the beat of legionary sandals. In our real timeline, the Roman Empire had a good run. Founded in 753 BC, it grew from a swampy village by the Tiber into the Mediterranean's mega-empire, ruling millions and building things people still visit on Instagram today. But by the 3rd, 5th centuries, things went downhill faster than a chariot with no brakes. Barbarian invasions from Germanic tribes, plagues, famines, economic mess, and civil wars. Rome spent more time fighting itself than actual enemies. The empire got too big to manage, split into east and west. The Western Roman Empire finally collapsed in 476 AD, when the last emperor was kicked off the throne by a barbarian general named Odoacer. The Eastern Roman Empire kept going until 1453. But Western Europe? It went into the so-called Dark Ages, complete with castles, knights, and not much indoor plumbing. And that, dear viewers, is how we got medieval Europe. Stained glass windows, chainmail, feudal lords arguing over pigs, and a lot fewer heated public baths. Alright, let's play history's favorite game. What if we fix everything that actually went wrong? First, the Romans stopped fighting each other every other Tuesday. Civil wars? Bad for business. Second, they reformed the economy before it crashes under the weight of gold coins getting smaller, lighter, and eventually turning into gold-colored disappointments. Third, they let more non-Romans become citizens and legionaries, but do it smartly, keeping loyalty to the empire, not just local warlords. Fourth, they actually reinforced the northern borders instead of hoping the Rhine and Danube rivers will magically stop entire nations on the move. And finally, imagine a strong emperor in the late 4th or early 5th century. Let's call him Imperator Maximus Fixidus, who makes the army mobile and professional again, reforms taxes, creates a power-sharing system that actually works. Result? The Western Roman Empire survives. Maybe it shrinks a bit, maybe abandons Britain, but it stays alive. The Eastern Empire? Still there too. Congratulations. We now have a stable, if smaller, Roman Empire stretching from Spain to Greece, and a lot fewer unemployed stone carvers. Now the fun part. What does Europe look like without the collapse? Well, say goodbye to the Dark Ages. No vacuum of power for feudal lords to fill. No castles popping up everywhere like mushrooms after rain. Latin stays the dominant language of government, trade, and everyday insults shouted in traffic. Instead of dozens of tiny kingdoms arguing over who's the true heir of Rome, you just have Rome. Still there. The Celts in Britain? Probably still under Roman rule, or at least heavy Roman influence. Germanic tribes? Maybe they become federated provinces instead of independent kingdoms. Goths, now with citizenship and a Roman tax bill. Christianity? Still becomes the dominant faith, but more unified, without the medieval mess of popes and antipopes yelling at each other from different cities. And those beautiful Roman roads and aqueducts? Instead of falling apart, they keep getting repaired, maybe even improved. Imagine, medieval knights never exist, replaced by late Roman heavy cavalry units, still polishing their helmets and complaining about barley rations. Cities don't get abandoned. Urban life keeps thriving. Amphitheaters keep hosting shows, forums stay busy with merchants and politicians, and public baths remain the place to gossip. Roman law keeps evolving. No sudden break into feudal laws where your neighbor's pig can legally sue you. Education stays rooted in classical philosophy, rhetoric, and surprisingly practical engineering. And Europe never completely forgets how to make concrete or build domes. So, centuries pass, and Rome is still around. Sure, borders shift, emperors come and go, and the Senate still argues about things nobody remembers. But the imperial machine keeps humming. In our timeline, the fall of Rome meant Europe lost urban life, large-scale stone construction, and sometimes even how to make a half-decent brick. Without that break, imagine what keeps happening. Concrete, domes, aqueducts never go out of style. Roman engineering schools keep teaching generation after generation. Archimedes' screws, water wheels, and early steam concepts don't get forgotten. Result: by the year 1000 AD, the Roman world could have water-powered factories, large stone cities with street lighting, and working plumbing everywhere, not just in Constantinople. And the big one: without losing classical Greek and Roman texts, the scientific method could develop centuries earlier. Imagine an industrial revolution starting in, say, the 1200s, powered by watermills, early steam engines, and Roman roads delivering raw materials faster than medieval mud tracks ever could. Rome was famously bad at sailing the open ocean, but with more centuries to develop shipbuilding, why not? By the 13th or 14th century, Roman merchants and explorers might build deep-sea ships, bigger than triremes, sturdier than medieval cogs. They could discover the Canary Islands, then the Azores, and eventually even bump into the Americas. Picture legionaries stepping onto a Caribbean beach, planting an eagle standard, and trying to explain Roman tax forms to confused Taino Islanders. Instead of Spanish conquistadors, it's centurions in Lorica Segmentada hunting for gold and new provinces. Christianity still dominates. It's already state religion by the 4th century. But with a stable empire, the great schism between Western Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches might never happen. One unified imperial church, with councils held in still-standing Roman basilicas. Fewer religious wars, fewer inquisitions, and maybe, just maybe, popes who argue less about doctrine and more about public sanitation budgets. Instead of Latin breaking into dozens of Romance languages, it keeps evolving, but more slowly and in a controlled way. Local dialects still pop up, but official imperial Latin stays the language of schools, government, and trade. By 1500 AD, the average citizen might speak something like modern Italian with Roman pronunciation, while formal documents remain in classical Latin. And instead of learning Latin as a dead language, kids learn it in school because it's what everyone actually uses for business emails and passive-aggressive neighbor complaints. Europe never becomes a patchwork of isolated castles and walled towns. Instead, big cities keep growing. Londinium, Lutetia, Colonia, and Hispalis stay connected by paved roads and trade caravans. The empire stays Mediterranean-focused, but with more links to northern provinces. And with steady urban demand, technology and crafts keep improving. Glassblowing, clockmaking, printing, all could start earlier. The big change: no sudden shift to feudalism. Without the collapse, there's no need for local lords to build castles and become mini-kings. Land stays officially imperial. Farmers pay taxes to Rome, not to whichever guy owns the biggest sword. Society stays urban and bureaucratic instead of rural and feudal. By the Renaissance era, Europe could look like this. One huge empire stretching from Iberia to the Balkans. Big cities, universities founded centuries earlier. Roman law as the basis for all courts. No knights in shining armor. Instead, professional heavy cavalry units in standardized imperial armor. Art and philosophy directly continuing from ancient times, without a medieval break. And somewhere around the 1500s or 1600s, a Roman inventor might file a patent for the first steam-powered vehicle, centuries ahead of schedule. So here we are. In one timeline, Rome falls. Europe spends centuries fighting over muddy fields, forgetting how to make concrete and inventing the fork surprisingly late. In this timeline, Rome never falls. Instead, senators keep arguing for 2,000 years. Roads keep getting repaired. And you start your mornings cursing in Latin at your smart tabula because the Wi-Fi in your insula apartment still sucks. The Romans themselves probably never imagined an empire lasting forever. Yet here we are, imagining exactly that. Legions marching through history, emperors making New Year speeches on Forum TV, and your grandma's secret recipe for garum going viral on the Imperial Net. And that's the thing about history. Nothing is inevitable. The collapse of Rome wasn't destiny. It was the result of choices, luck, bad emperors, worse tax policy, and a lot of stubborn barbarians. Change a few details, and the world could look so familiar, and yet so incredibly different. A reminder that the present we know is just one version of what could have been. So, Sieves, what do you think? Would an eternal Roman Empire make the world better, worse, or just weirder? Leave your theories in the comments. Yes, even the weird ones where Caesar invents the smartphone. And if you enjoyed this trip through alternate history, why not do something the real Romans never invented? Hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Because in any timeline, the only empire that truly never falls is the YouTube algorithm. Veil, Amiki, and see you in the next episode of What If.